Day versus night, love versus hate, good versus bad. All examples of the things that we consider to be opposites in our world. But what if they had more connection than we think? They all have to meet in the middle somewhere, the line between them only being defined by the rules that we create. Everything is connected, including us. The body versus the mind, thoughts versus actions, external versus internal, or whatever you wish to call it, are not two separate things as we often say them to be. In this video, I'll be exploring, analysing, and answering to what extent does physicality portray the psyche? But what does this mean exactly? Well, physicality in the context of this video will refer to the appearance, expressive behaviour, and body language of an individual, or more simply, something that can be seen visually. The psyche is the emotion, personality, and thought processes of an individual, which is practically invisible and can only be expressed through physical functions or abilities. The video will be broken up into four main parts. Body language or nonverbal behaviour is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as the conscious and unconscious movements by which feelings and attitudes are communicated. The study of this concept is referred to as kinesics. The definition states that body language effectively communicates emotion, however it does not address the power of body language and its ability to actually alter and influence emotion, which I'll be covering. Body language can be sorted into four main categories of nonverbal cues: bodily posture, eye contact, hand gestures, and facial expressions. Each one of these categories consists of heaps of different cues that convey different meanings in different contexts, and may change depending on what other cues are paired with it. When we are verbally speaking, we may not be able to articulate what we are feeling, or may even try to hide it. Nonverbal behaviour expresses what emotion you are truly feeling without you even noticing, which is why medical professionals such as psychologists analyse body language as a tool in helping to gauge the patient's mental status. Body language is proven to accurately indicate emotion by social neurologists who have conducted thousands of psychological experiments using different methods such as fMRI scans. It was found that each of the components that make up body language have their own contribution into expressing emotion. Facial expressions such as the movement of the mouth and eyebrows will convey the base emotion. The 5 base emotions are anger, happiness, disgust, fear, and sadness. Even when someone is trying to conceal their emotion, the face will reveal it with uncontrollable micro-expressions. Certain facial movements have evolved to be associated with emotion, as this is what helped our predecessors to survive. For example, as science journalist Roger Highway states, expressions of fear evolved to mimic babies' faces because evolution favoured those who, when frightened, looked more submissive. This favouring of facial expressions can also relate to the topic of physiognomy, which I'll talk about later. Highfields also mentions how we have learnt to mimic the expressions of apes when in anger, as these expressions portray dominance. A common example that is used when providing evidence for the evolution of emotion is the Four People, a culture from Papua New Guinea in the 1960s who was studied by psychologist Paul Ekman. He chose to study this particular group as they were secluded from society and had not been influenced by the modern-day lifestyle or media. He found that they still displayed and recognized the same expression of emotion, further proving the theory of the evolution of emotion. The eyes play a crucial role in effective communication, or the eyes are the windows to the soul, as William Shakespeare once famously said. Strong eye contact displays confidence and comfortability, whereas avoidant and darting eye contact portrays nervousness and disinterest. This type of eye-focused body language is generally easy to identify, however involuntary movements such as dilation of the pupils and blinking rate is something that you have to pay more close attention to. The posture and configurement of the body have significant effect on how someone is perceived by other people. Movement that makes an individual seem smaller is called contractive body language. This is seen in motions such as crossed arms, bowing your head towards the floor, and a slouching posture. The opposite of this is called open body language, in which the individual is not afraid to take up space and will spread their arms and legs out, making big movements and maintaining a straight and upright posture. This is more commonly seen in extroverted people. Postural body language can reflect on personality, which relates to our next point, and how sociable or confident someone is feeling that day. It may even be affected by extraneous variables such as how much sleep the individual got the previous night. Hand gestures don't just refer to the way that we use our hands in conversation to emphasize a point, but how we use our hands in relation to ourselves. For example, people, generally females, will often touch and fiddle with their jewellery as a sense of comfort to calm them down in a stressful situation. Hand gestures, or more specifically hand symbols, are universal, however each country and culture may view them differently. By using hand gestures in conversation and in photos, it helps us to connect with other people. But how can body language actually influence our emotion? Or how can we use it to our advantage? Well, in 2012, Amy Cuddy, a social psychologist, presented a TED Talk that has since then received over 70 million views. In this talk, Cuddy reveals how body language or power poses can influence the way an individual thinks about the world around them and in turn impact their emotion, behaviour and overall experience. In her own experiment that she conducted, she found that there was a significant correlation between what type of power pose was practiced and how the participant felt and performed afterward. She explains how the hormones of cortisol and testosterone are affected by these conscious body decisions, and how it is entirely possible to turn physical actions into thoughts or trick your brain into thinking that you've already reached your desired outcome. This proves the idea of how physicality and the psyche are immensely intertwined. Expressive behaviour is defined as any action or interaction consciously or unconsciously communicating emotions, desires, intents, and/or personality. So essentially, expressive behaviours are any habitual and distinctive actions that could differentiate one individual from another. This is also referred to as mannerisms. This could be the way that they talk or tell a story, tone of voice, handwriting, gestures, walking style, the list goes on. The expressive behaviour of handwriting actually has its own field on analysing handwriting and linking it to personality traits. This is called graphology. Whether this is accurate or not is questionable, as it's often just based on assumption, and it's hard to find any supported evidence or the science behind it, making it a pseudoscience. Another thing that makes the connection slightly unreliable is the ability to alter and change some of the aspects, such as how you walk and write. However, in saying this, one of the founding figures in personality psychology, psychologist Gordon Allport, believed that expressive behaviour is unconsciously determined and therefore can provide a clue to deep-seated aspects of personality. Physiognomy. This is also considered a pseudoscience like the previous point, however this has evidence to support it. Physiognomy can be defined as the practice or art of assessing or judging character based off appearance and physical features. The term originates from Greece in 500 BC by Greek philosopher and mathematician Pythagoras, who created the well-known and hated Pythagoras theorem. It's known that appearance can provide a physical reputation to inner identity and lifestyle through the clothes you wear, your personal hygiene, and the way you adorn yourself with accessories and makeup. But physiognomy suggests that your genetic features that you're born with or develop as you get older can provide insight into personality and character. Now you may be thinking, aren't personality and appearance two different independent variables? How could they possibly correlate? Well, with the impact of societal and cultural standards and expectations, humans have learnt to naturally and stereotypically associate certain physical features with personality traits. Studies showed that politicians with dominant and trustworthy facial features such as high cheekbones have a higher chance of being elected, and people who display more submissive and innocent features such as big wide-set eyes get away with more things. It has also been shown that criminals are more likely to be convicted as guilty if they have low eyebrows, making them appear more intimidating and less trustworthy. Additionally, there have been links made to levels of testosterone, known as the masculine and aggressive gene, affecting the appearance and width of the face. The human brain has an innate subconscious preference for the visually appealing and makes snap judgments based on first impressions. Preference for particular attributes and aesthetic appeal is incredibly real. People are 73% more likely to buy a product with attractive packaging. This is because we subconsciously believe that if something looks better, it must be higher in quality as well. This also applies to humans. It was revealed that aspects of a person that are considered attractive, such as smiling, scent, clear, youthful skin, and symmetrical facial features, is because we are biologically inclined to find these things attractive, as they signify better health and thus more fit to reproduce with. It's impossible to truly capture the essence of someone's character without speaking to them first, making these first impressions based purely off looks slightly unreliable. But nonetheless, it's undeniable that first impressions do matter. As appearance can affect treatment and social interactions, it has the ability to impact an individual's personality development. If someone receives positive social feedback, they are generally more likely to develop an outgoing and friendly personality from their high self-esteem. However, in the opposite case, bias of appearance can affect a person negatively if they are not treated with the same respect as a conventionally attractive and acceptable person would. This may result in an individual distancing themselves from other people and becoming more standoffish with a low and destructive self-esteem. Now, I wouldn't be able to end this part without mentioning Charles Darwin, world-famous evolutionary biologist. He created the theory that people create the face they deserve. The wrinkles that develop on our faces show a lifetime of emotion, from smile lines to frown lines. This is an interesting perspective on the topic of physiognomy and how our personality and facial features affect and influence one another. Going back to the concept at the beginning of the video, the mind and the body are often thought of as two opposites. However, the study of the mind-body connection and interoception suggests otherwise. Physician and author Eva Selhub stated, "In mind-body medicine, the mind and the body are not seen as separately functioning entities, but as one functioning unit. The mind and emotions are viewed as influencing the body, as the body in turn influences the mind and emotions. This connection relates to how the mind and body are biologically influenced and affected by each other, like how bodily functions can be triggered by emotion. For example, frisson refers to a physical reaction such as goosebumps occurring as a result of experiencing a heightened emotion such as excitement or fear. A more prominent example is the impact of mental health on physical health and vice versa. Extreme stress can lead to physical reactions such as hair loss and skin breakouts. And depression is known to be linked to lower immunity. Clinical psychologist Alan Kunsick believed that thoughts really are physical entities that both influence and are influenced by the body. This is also known as the reductionist theory. In 2019, at the Convention of Psychological Science, Professor of Psychology Lisa Barrett said that your body is part of your mind, not in some gazy, mystical way, but in a very real biological way. The phenomenal self and the narrative self are terms used to refer to the connection between body and mind in a more spiritual way rather than in a biological way. The phenomenal self is dependent on body representations, whereas the narrative self relies on abstract cognitive representations. So essentially, the phenomenal self is your physical body and the narrative self is your psyche and conscious. This concept has helped me better to understand the idea of physicality versus non-physicality. So, I suspect by now that you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed with all the information that I just threw at you, but the truth is that this video is just an introduction. Due to the broadness of this topic, I was unable to go into full depth about everything, so I'll leave links in the description for all the sources that I used. But based on these key findings, I can conclude that physicality can betray the psyche to a great extent. As an overall, body language and emotion, expressive behaviour and personality, physiognomy and character, and the body-mind connection were all successful in validating my question despite the few skepticisms. I would like to leave you with a quote which I believe sums up this video quite nicely. This comes from David Oakley, a professor of psychology, and Peter Halligan, a professor of neuropsychology. They wrote that, "We don't consciously choose our thoughts or our feelings, we become aware of them." Thank you for watching.